I've recently been reading a lot about the KGB, about the FSB. So I've several things sparked my curiosity. So one, I'm traveling to Ukraine and to Moscow, and because of that, I started to sort of ask practical questions of myself, just travel and all those kinds of things. So I started reading a lot about the KGB. Jack Barski has a book on this. I talked to him. And you start to realize, you probably looked into some of this, but you just start to realize the scale of surveillance, of manipulation. Now, a lot of them also talk about the incompetence of those organizations. The usual bureaucracy creeps in. But the point is, it seems like there's no line they're not willing to cross for the purpose of gathering intelligence, for the purpose of controlling people in order to gather intelligence. Now, this is MI6, FSB. There's not much information about the FSB or the GRU, but the KGB. So we're always like 20 years behind or more on the actual information. And so I start to wonder. So I have not officially been contacted by any intelligence agency, but I start to wonder, well, is there somebody I know that's doing that? Undercover CIA or undercover FSB, undercover anything?
You probably do.
Have you asked yourself this question?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, people that have been on my podcast. Yeah, for sure.
You think there was actual a guest that may have been?
100%.
Oh, man.
I would imagine.
Would you know?
I have suspicions.
Do you care? Is this...
I mean, it depends on what they're attempting to do, right? Like, if I felt like there was some deception involved and they were trying to use the podcast to manipulate a narrative in a deceptive way to trick people into things, yeah, I would care.
But this is exactly what... Those are the kind of things they do. They do plant narratives.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine if you have the number one podcast in the world, that people would want to infiltrate that.
Yeah, there's probably meetings in all major intelligence agencies about, okay, what are the large platforms? How do we spread the message?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing that really emerged when we were talking about during my cancellation, that there's there's no objective analysis of this in mainstream media. There's clear narratives that they're trying to push forward to, whether it's to promote certain ideas or to diminish the power and reach of people who are mavericks or people who are, you know, who aren't connected to a system that you can't compromise. That's where it gets dangerous, right? Where it gets dangerous is when someone has the largest reach, but is also completely detached and clearly is independent in the sense of independent thinking, has on whoever he wants.
But your mind can still be manipulated.
I guess I can. I mean, I guess everybody can be manipulated a certain way. I manipulate my own mind, I'm sure, too. But I also spend a lot of time thinking about what I think. You know, I don't just accept things. Like the UFO thing. Like, I was all in for a while, and now I'm like, man, something smells fishy. Yeah. And then I'm thinking, like, why? Here's my problem with the UFO thing. I want it to be real so bad.
Yeah.
That's my problem with it. I'm such a sucker. I want it to be real so bad, you know? And that's a problem for me because I'm aware of it. And so then I stop and think about, like, what is my desire for UFO truth to be exposed? Well, it's because it's fun. You know, that's what it is. So I have a desire for it to be real.
And I mean, I've talked to a bunch of folks about this. So those with connection with DOD, and they do draw lines between people that are full of shit and people who are not. There's a lot of people in the public sphere that they say are full of shit.
Yeah, for sure.
And you have to kind of tell the difference.
Yeah, CNN. Watch them talk.
Well, I mean, even yes,
you know, I mean,
true.
everybody knows.
On the UFO topic.
The UFO topic.
There's certain individuals that are like, okay, they're just like using this. In fact, like people who are not full of shit are often very quiet.
Right.
Which is why, you know, even Bob Lazar is an interesting story because he was trying to be quiet for the longest time.
Well, he was worried about his own life, according to Bob, and that's why he went public with it. And initially, the first videos he did with George Knapp, they hid his identity.
Yeah.
And then he felt like that wasn't enough, and he really needed to expose his own identity just to protect his life, which is a great story. So you got to go, well, that seems so juicy. I want to buy into it.
Yeah.
And that's where I get nervous.
You don't know who to trust in this
Right.
world.
Exactly.
How do you figure that out? How do you figure out who to trust in your life? You're Joe Rogan. A lot of people want to be close to you. CIA agents, FSB agents, people that want.
I'm friends with a former CIA agent,
Yeah.
Mike Baker, who's been on my podcast a bunch of times.
Allegedly former.
Former.
Think about that.
He's air quotes, former.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe he's former. I'm sure he has some connection to him. I also believe he's a good guy. But I gain a lot of very intelligent and well-informed insights from him as to how things work. And, I think, I'm sure he doesn't tell me everything about everything, but he's told me enough where I think I can understand things better from talking to him about how the way, the elves work under the machine.